and Africans in the diaspora since the 1945 Manchester Pan-African Conference. Political developments affecting Africans and people of African descent globally in the last few years suggest that Africans are not winning the battle against underdevelopment, poverty, and the old demon of racism. Now, the Africa and African Diaspora Conference launch seeks to look into this. The South African convener and spokesperson is Rev Frank Chikane, and he joins us now via Zoom. A very good morning to you, Rev Chikane, and thank you so much for making the time today.
Good morning, and good morning for those who are watching.
As we look ahead to Africa Day tomorrow, what message are you wanting to send out?
Well, you know, the challenges of Africa have not come to an end. And as a result, we as Africans and people of the African diaspora have decided that we need to do a major intervention to make a difference in terms of the conditions and the lot of people of African descent. And so tomorrow we will be launching a vision on the Africa and African Diaspora Conference, which is going to be very unique, except that it's now postponed for next year because of the COVID-19 pandemic. But we decided we must launch it tomorrow, announce that we are taking a stand, mobilize Africans and people in the African diaspora or African people in the diaspora to make sure that we come together in a Pan-African conference, not just to talk about our pain and share our challenges, but to actually develop a program of action that's going to make a difference in the lives of the people of African descent globally. We are convinced that racism will never come to an end until we change the lot of the people of African descent internationally, globally. And because of that, we've been meeting for the last 18 months or so. We have now formed an international leadership group, which has representatives from Latin America, Caribbean, North America, Europe, and we are working on the Middle East, Asia, and Oceania. And we have agreed that we need to develop strategies starting from the regional consultative conferences where they will deal with the issues of how they landed there, the challenges they are facing, what they have done with those challenges, and then what do they think we should do together to change the conditions of people of African descent. We are also setting up commissions on specific areas: politics, economics, financial markets, spirituality, the fourth industrial revolution, to have extensive studies as well to prepare for this conference so that we can have a clear program of action. And I'm pleased that tomorrow we're going to have a launch. And because the AU has declared the people in the African people in the diaspora, the sixth region of the AU, we have linked up with the AU because this is their primary focus as well. And we're going to have the chair of the AU presenting a message tomorrow during our opening. And that message will run into the 3 days. We are launching this in 3 days, 3 o'clock every day from Monday up to Wednesday. And then we are also interacting with the UN because they've declared 2015 to 2024 the international decade for people of African descent globally. And we are engaging them as well to say this is the time for us to make a difference. And we've presented this conference as a follow-up to the 1945 Manchester Pan-African Congress, which was a pacemaker for the independence of many countries on the African continent and in the British Indies of old. And we believe this time the outstanding matter is to change politically the position of people of African descent globally, and also change their economic conditions so that we can be at the cutting edge of the development of the world, especially economic development. That is why we're going to also focus on 4IR, because people of African descent missed the first industrial revolution, second and third, because they were either enslaved, colonized, oppressed, ruled by dictators who had no interest in their lives. But we're going to use the fourth industrial revolution to leapfrog people of African descent to the cutting edge of economic development in the world. And this is our commitment. And this is what we are launching tomorrow, Tuesday and Wednesday.
Quite a hefty commitment indeed. As you decide on your choice of topics and the conversations you want to hold, there's always a concern about these conversations being really higher level and not reaching down to the ordinary citizens. How are you hoping to harmonize the academic side with the social side, with the youth component and the women equality conversation in terms of taking Africa forward?
Actually, the way there have been many Pan-African congresses. The first meeting was 19,000. The first meeting, yes, and the first congress was 1919. And there have been many since then, up to 2015, when the Pan-Africanists celebrated the Manchester Conference. The way we are designing this conference is to get people in every region to interact with communities, to talk about the challenges they are facing together, and then come to the international conference with material from the ground. We are making sure that there is a high level of participation of women, and we have done our homework about finding women leaders throughout the continent of Africa and elsewhere. We're also working hard to get the younger generation, because in terms of the future, it's not the old Pan-Africanists like myself who are going to be there into the future, but the younger generation. So we're mobilizing that. We've got lists of young people who are in leadership, and we are hoping that by the time, the plan is we do the regional consultative conferences before December, we do commission work before December, and then we produce the material, send it back to the regions for discussions with their people, and later next year, which is the second part of next year, that's when we're going to have a conference. So we're going to have extensive discussions that should involve ordinary people on the ground.
Reverend, thank you so much for talking to us today. In terms of the public engagement, how can people participate?
Firstly, it's going to be streamed, so everybody will be able to access it. But there's going to be also a link for people who are going to link up to be able to watch it. And the technical team, our technical team, will be sending all that information. And the media will also have the link to be able to plug in. Everybody can, once you stream it, everybody can reach it.
I know you've retired from the church, but a man of the cloth remains so for time immemorial. Just tell us about your thoughts about the impacts of the lockdown on churches at this time. Are you engaging in those conversations?
Yeah, no. You never retire from the church, you know. You retire being in charge of a congregation. But I'm part of the Council of Churches. I'm the vice president. We have been having extensive discussions on the lockdown. As you would know, the public will know, we were the first ones when the crisis hit us to say we needed to have a lockdown, because without a lockdown, the virus would have spread in a way that it's uncontrollable and our health system would not cope up. But now the discussion is, how do you unlock people so that they can begin to live normal lives? It's a difficult subject. We have had extensive discussions with the president and his ministers the last week and even this week. And I believe that they are struggling with these issues about what do you do in the churches. I think in terms of services, churches are offering services and they needed permits and they want to be declared as essential service people. We need to provide counseling, help people who are lonely, those who are hungry. I'm receiving lots of calls of people who have gone without food for some time, and we have to organize food for them. The church is involved. I think the crisis now is more at a level of how do you start the services again. And that is a huge discussion. We're presented as SACC and other faith communities, the protocols we could follow when we open the churches in a way that we will not become part of the channel to spread the virus and kill people. I think that's the real challenge, and that's what has been keeping me busy for the last 4 weeks or so. That's what we've been working on.
Let's thank you for talking to us this morning, and happy Africa Day for tomorrow.
Yeah, happy Africa Day, and let's join to celebrate, and we'll have the links and the information will be there.
Absolutely. Rev
Thank you.
Frank Chikane there for you. Let's take a break. You're watching The Agenda.